Earlier, we discussed simplifying a fraction, and we decided that simplifying a fraction meant to write it in lowest terms, to write it so that the numerator and denominator had no common factors. In general, to simplify anything means to write it in some standard form. What then is the standard form for the kinds of expressions we're going to be looking at now? That is, what does it mean to simplify the kind of expression that we're going to be talking about? There are just a few rules for the kind of expression we're going to be talking about to be simplified. First, we must eliminate all of the parentheses. We will typically get rid of parentheses either by using the associative property or by using the distributive property. Second, we would prefer not to write variables inside fractions. So we would prefer to write a fractional coefficient rather than a variable over something. We want to carry out any multiplication of numbers inside terms. And we should also, for example, we would write x squared instead of x times x. We want to write variables in some standard order if there's more than one variable. Typically we'll choose alphabetical order, but sometimes we'll have a reason to do something else. So typically we'll want to say u squared v rather than vu squared, but for sure we'll never have u squared v in one term and vu in another. Finally, we'll want to combine all like terms, including constants, and we'll order the terms either from the highest power of the variables to the lowest, or from the lowest to the highest. Okay, this seems like a lot of rules to remember, but after a very small amount of practice, all of this will come naturally. Let's do an example together. Let's say we want to simplify this vaguely awful looking expression. Alright, so I see that there's subtraction here, and so my first move is going to be to rewrite all of the subtraction as addition. And I also notice I'm taking the opposite of a group. I'm going to write that as times -1. Okay, so looking at this now, the worst thing about it is the parentheses. I'm going to use the distributive property to get rid of all of the parentheses. So I'll have 3y times xy plus 3y times -2x plus 3y times 3y plus -1 times 2xy squared plus -1 times 4 plus 6. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is, inside each term, arrange things so that all of the number parts are together, all of the variable parts are together, and the variables are in some nice sort of order. I think alphabetical order sounds good. X and then Y. We'll have 3xyy plus 3 times -2xy plus 3 times 3yy plus -1 times 2xy squared plus -1 times 4 plus 6. Okay, I think my next move should be to do all the multiplication of numbers. So I'll have 3xyy plus 3 times negative 2 is negative 6 xy, plus 3 times 3 is 9 yy, plus negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 xy squared, plus negative 1 times 4 is negative 4, plus 6. Next, all the repeated multiplication of variables I'm going to rewrite with exponents. 3xyy is y squared, plus negative 6xy, plus 9yy is y squared, plus negative 2xy squared, plus negative 4 plus 6. Now I'm going to use the commutative property to rearrange the terms. I'm going to put all of my terms with 3 variables in them first, and I want to put the terms with exactly that variable part next to each other. So I'll have 3xy squared plus negative 2xy squared. Then I'll have plus negative 6xy plus 9y squared. I'm putting this one first because it comes earlier in the alphabet. Plus negative 4 plus 6. Now I notice I have a pair of like terms here. I have a pair of like terms here. I don't have any other pairs of like terms. So here I'll add 3 plus negative 2 is 1 xy squared plus negative 6xy plus 9y squared plus negative 4 plus positive 6 is positive 2. Okay, and now last round, I don't need to write that coefficient 1. Instead of plus the negative, I'll write minus. Okay. And this expression follows all the rules for simplified form. There we have it. Simplifying an expression.